I have a dumb question because
Yeah.
there's always like these cliches in baseball, especially with pitching. It's like, well, the best pitch in baseball is a well-located fastball. Um, and
This is great. Yeah, go.
I've watched a lot of your stuff and I've read like Fangraph stuff. So like fastball usage is just going down every single year. If the best pitch is a well-located fastball, why does it keep going down?
Because it's not a located fastball. I just stumbled over my words like three times because I'm passionate about this. But I run into this all the time. I'm not going to call it our talent here, but we have great conversations. Like I talk to a lot of old school people here, and I wouldn't say old school, but just people who played at a really high level, much higher level than I did, and have thoughts. And it's like reconciling those thoughts with what is currently occurring in baseball is often a very hard thing to do, especially if I don't come in with the playing experience of like I was in the show for 3 years, like I didn't play at a high level. I didn't really play in college at all. Like I'm not particularly great at baseball, but like I'd like to think like my high school playing days were enough to give me like some idea. And then again, I'm like, I don't want to say I'm an aggregator, but I talk to a ton of people. It's like, I'm not just making stuff up. Like a lot of the stuff that I have confidence in saying is stuff that someone who's far smarter than me running a major league pitching department is generally telling me. So yeah, it's not. I mean, like, I don't know if you want to qualify it based on locations, probably a well located splitter, like those pitches miss more bats, create more chase, don't allow any contact quality. So like it's a terrible answer, but yeah, well located splitter is probably the best pitch in baseball. Well located slider sweeper is probably next. But when you qualify based on command, I don't entirely know. Now I'll jump to the other side because I enjoy thinking about like the other side in a lot of arguments. I think it's really important to understand your own argument. If you the point people say that at is, I guarantee anyone who says that is like because it sets up other pitches. It's like because you establish that fastball lane away and then you could do anything you want off that. And that is a completely different situation. The best pitch in baseball, if you're telling me in an individual instant, is what I'm saying on the splitter slider side. If you're telling me like in an at bat against a hitter you've seen 4 times, like, okay, tell me what the prior three ABs looked like. Maybe that away fastball is the best pitch. This gets into like a lot of the game planning and game theory of baseball. There are instances where a well located fastball is the best pitch, but it requires so much context as to what occurred in the AB and who the hitter is and all these other things that if you're just talking zoomed out broad scope, I'm going to win that argument 10 out of 10 times by saying the splitter because like the fastball is never going to have better results in a splitter, especially if you're giving me the qualifier of location. So few things happen in the shadow of the zone. Fastball damage is still more than slider and splitter damage in the shadow. So that's kind of where I end in that argument. But it's one that I run into way more than you think, which is why I was laughing when you brought it up.
I've always heard that, and I just assumed it was right. And like it sounds
It's
good when you
not.
say
No,
it, though,
no.
does it? Right? It's like, oh, that
It
does
sounds
sound good.
great. Yeah. That's something that if like you played, you're gonna say on air and no one's gonna
Oh,
question you. And it's like
right,
until you get me on a desk with you, where I'm like, that's wrong. Like, I'm sorry, it's wrong. That's like what I'm trying to get to is being the
right.
person who's in those situations where it's like I don't want to fact check, but I just want to like challenge these
Yeah.
beliefs because like they're not really backed up with anything objective. They're just like things we throw out there. And hey, a lot of the time they're probably going to be correct. We've seen this a lot in with data. Data ends up proving things that scouts have thought for a long time. Totally fair, but I don't know if we could just throw that stuff out there and are believing people. I don't know. I struggle with how that makes us smarter as a baseball society.
I like that. You always have to, a healthy amount of skepticism is always needed in these kind of things because like otherwise you just go up, just go along with that. You sit on a desk, say it, whatever. Did you also in a video, like I think I watched, you did a thing on the cutter recently where like, did you
Yeah.
say that like most guys just don't have good fastballs in general? Is that why they're having to mix in other stuff?
Yeah. I mean, you answered this a second ago. Why are four seams dropping in the league? It's because like they get hit more than anything. So if you could give me something else you could zone, like that allows less damage and maybe does a little less on the whiff side, I could just use your fastball in different spots. I wouldn't say most guys don't have good fastballs. I would say like it's overstated how good guys' fastballs are a lot of the time, especially when it's like you bring back in the qualifier of location, which again, I think we overstate a pitcher's ability to locate a lot of the time, especially on local broadcasts where it's like, man, if he could just locate his fastball, it'll work. And it's like, I agree with you, but like he has not shown a history of doing that. So like, what are we saying here in that respect? But yeah, I think a lot of the time, it's like this concept of like revealed preference, which is like, I'm not going to really listen to what you're telling me. I'm going to look at what you're doing, and it's funny because like I do this a lot of the time on the minor league side with like aggregated data, where like every team will tell you talk to any GM or anything you hear publicly, it's like, we're just trying to optimize these pitchers. We're very individualized as an organization, and I agree with that. I think any team is trying to do that, but you see a lot of very, very sharp tendencies from organizations, which I think I'm starting to understand is more biases and models that they build in decision making. So it's like, well, why are the Red Sox throwing so few four seams? It's like, well, their model probably tells them that's not appropriate pitch. And it's like, well, why did the Dodgers and the Rays throw a reasonable amount of four seams, put them in the zone a lot, throw them hard? It's like their models are telling them that the four seam fastball is really valuable, just have to have good shape. So I love backing into that stuff and really using that as like, I'm not going to listen to like what Andrew Friedman says if it's a copy paste answer on like what they do in the minor leagues on the pitching side. I'm going to go look at the minor league data and then try to reconcile between the two. Maybe there's some overlap, maybe there isn't. But again, I think it's important to like look at objective info and consider how it supports or doesn't support what people are saying publicly.